Hello, thank you for joining our Evesham Township Shares webinar series, our actual seventh one. We're excited to share with you on July 2021, our seventh webinar in the series, What Every Business Owner in Evesham Township Should Know. My name is Stacy Webb. I am the Deputy Director of Community Development here in Evesham Township, and we are excited to share some additional or some information with you that we believe will help our businesses. I'm going to share with you our agenda, and then we are going to get right into having our speaker and go into what he has to present for us. So today, as I've just welcomed everyone, no matter what time you are watching this, we know that it will be beneficial to you, whether it is this morning or in the afternoon or late at night, whenever you have an opportunity. We hope that you will go into this presentation and take some time to hear it and hear what our speaker has to present. Our mayor, Jack Evesham, will speak with us in just a moment. And then after she's finished, I will come back and go over just the purpose of our webinars, why we continue to have them, and why we believe they're important for our businesses. At that point, I'll introduce our speaker, and then I'll come back and provide some information for next steps. I'm going to stop sharing right now. So, Mayor Evesham.
Thank you, Stacy, and welcome everyone. Good morning. We're so glad to be able to put together these webinar shares for our community, and I thank all of our speakers, especially today's speaker, Jeff, who's going to give us some helpful information on how to be more wise with all of the money that comes into our businesses and not spend money in useless fees or unnecessary fees. So we look forward to hearing all of that information. I do want to thank everybody for joining us today and following along in our webinar series. I look forward to our next one next month. So I will not take up too much time and let Jeff get into the juicy details.
Thank you. So at this point, I'm going to go over the purpose of our webinars. So Evesham Township, in our community development, we've been focused this year on sharing information with our local and small businesses. As we know, this has been an unprecedented year, and we have needed to share information with you that could help you to continue to grow, continue to stay open, and to learn things that you may not have known that were available to you. This webinar today is an exact purpose for our Evesham Shares webinars. They are monthly sessions, and we do have various speakers every month come on and share information that will provide financial and non-financial guidance. Not just for today, but in the future as well. So you'll have information you can always be able to take with you. Come back, look at the webinars. They are posted on our Evesham Township website under the business section. You can go on and watch any of the webinars that we've had in the past, including today's, and get some information that you may not have been aware of. As things consistently change, we will always share information with you, and we will give you a contact number and information so that you can ask the appropriate person the question that you may have. Now I am going to introduce our speaker. I'm very happy to have Mr. Jeff Harris. Jeff Harris is the founder and owner of JMJB Merchant Solutions. It's a boutique merchant solutions brokerage serving businesses in Southern New Jersey and Greater Philadelphia area. Jeff has been working in the credit card processing space since 2005 and has always had a passion for supporting local businesses. So you can see why we're excited to have him here today. Jeff formed JMJB Merchant Solutions in 2020 with the sole purpose of helping our business owners and executives manage the processes and costs associated with accepting credit card payments. I know that our businesses are very interested in this topic, which is reducing and eliminating credit card processing costs. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff and stop sharing and allow him to share his screen. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Stacy, and thank you, Mayor VC, as well, for having me today. I am going to share my screen, and Stacy, if you don't mind, just let me know once it loads on your end so I don't get too far ahead.
It has loaded and we can see it.
Okay, excellent. So let's get the slideshow up. All right, so our topic today is really talking about how to reduce or eliminate credit card processing costs from the business. Essentially, taking those revenues and being able to do more with them, because there's, quite frankly, more staying with the business and going out the door. And that's ultimately what we're looking to accomplish and what we're looking to do as we're running a business. So as Stacy had alluded, I've been in this space since 2005. First, I worked for a company that sold software into the health and fitness space. And if you wanted to have the software product to help manage your gym or your organization, you had the payments that came along with it. And that was my foray into understanding credit card processing and payments. I then spent 5 years working for a company that sold credit card processing. I was one of those people that was pulling doors and stopping in to say hi and seeing how I could help your business. So I spent 5 years doing that with one company and one set of products or services. And then I decided that it made the most sense to, give businesses options. A lot of my clients liked what both companies I'd worked for were doing for them, but there were some things that they were not terribly pleased with. A lot of those things were fee driven. And it made me think that there's got to be a better way to serve businesses, because that's what this is all about. It's about serving your clients and serving businesses. And that's why I formed the brokerage, to figure out ways to enable businesses to keep more of their hard-earned money. So I'll quickly cover some challenges that a lot of businesses will see when it comes to accepting credit card payments and credit card processing. First is just flat out, there's a lack of transparency. It's very challenging to understand things, to understand your statements, your bills, what's coming in, and understanding what's true cost and what's not. There are times when your costs for accepting payments are rising, but your sales aren't rising. And why does that happen? Why is that happening? It really shouldn't, is the answer, but understanding why it's happening is important. During COVID, there were some businesses out there, some companies that were doing rate increases and adding additional monthly fees to their client base. I don't feel good about doing that, and I would never. And that's one of the reasons why this brokerage made sense. But these are some of the challenges that businesses are facing on a daily and weekly basis in the space. There are times where people are put into long-term agreements. There's early termination fees if people want to move or cancel or do something different. And then there's inflated costs and hidden fees. And these are all things that you as a business owner should not have to worry about when you're running your business, is having someone or another company essentially taking money from you that you didn't agree upon when you decided to go into business with them. And that's really the size of it. And I don't know if I mentioned this, the lack of transparency is a really big piece and thing that I love covering with my clients. So in order to best understand how you can reduce your cost or eliminate your processing fees, you have to understand how your business is priced. And I'm not going to delve into a terrible amount of detail here, but I think it's important for you to understand this. There's essentially 3 or 4 different ways that a credit card processor can price or set up your business to accept fees, to pay fees rather. The first is called Interchange Plus. The plus part is where you have a say in how much you're paying. And you need to make sure that your processor has set up the correct interchange, because that part you don't have a say in what the cost is. That's the same for all processors. We'll delve into that in a little bit more detail in a future slide. The second one is a tiered processing. And this is when someone walks into your door and says, hey, our rates start as low as XYZ%. You have very little control of what the actual cost is that you're paying. But it is simpler to understand that you're only managing 3 different rates, 3 different costs. The third one is flat rate. And these are where you'll have absolutely zero control of cost. You'll see these with some of the big software players out in the marketplace, but it's very easy to understand. So these are the trade-offs that you see. You have interchange plus, where you have a little bit of say in how much you're being charged. Tiered, where it's a little bit easier to understand, but a little bit less control of what the cost is. And then flat rate, where you really don't have any control of the cost, but it's very easy to understand how much you're paying. So these are the 3 different ways that you'll essentially see businesses priced out in the market. So with interchange plus, interchange, just to make things simple, is the wholesale cost of accepting credit card payments. Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, your bank who issued you your credit card, Capital One who issued you your credit card, whoever it is, interchange is how much they are making when you accept a credit card in your business. That part is non-negotiable. The plus part is what the processor, the credit card processor's markup or their profit is for allowing you to accept payments at your business. That's actually a very small portion of the overall cost, the plus part. However, it is a part that you can negotiate. So if you're able to negotiate 10% of the total revenues and figure out ways to negotiate it down, that's a way that you're able to reduce cost in an interchange plus model. The last part is making sure that you have someone that you know and trust and is willing to sit down with you and go through your statements at the end of the month to make sure that interchange, again, those fees that are the same for every processor because they're dictated by Visa, MasterCard, the card brands, making sure that there's no additional fluff or money being made by the processor in those particular costs. So having someone that can sit down and go through and make sure that that's not happening is incredibly important to the business. And a way to essentially eliminate costs in an interchange plus model is something called credit surcharging. This is when you have credit cards, and you might start seeing this, you should start seeing this in quite a few businesses around, where if you're choosing to use a credit card, you're going to pay an additional percentage. The customer is going to pay an additional percentage to use their credit card. It should incentivize them to either pay with a different payment method, but if they're going to use their credit card, it helps offset the cost of accepting credit cards for the business. You might see this in municipalities, in utilities. If you choose to pay by credit card online, there might be a convenience fee in order to accept it. And that is one way that businesses, whether you're online or you have a brick and mortar location, can help to eliminate the cost of accepting credit cards. So again, this is for credit only. It does not apply to debit card transactions. And it's passed to the consumer. So the consumer is ultimately the one that is going to be paying for the business's credit card processing fees. So the next one that we'll go into is tiered pricing. In tiered pricing, there's typically 2 to 4 tiers of rates that a business will have their credit card transactions fall into. However, the tricky thing is the processor is the one who's choosing which transactions fall into which tier. So lower cost transactions like a debit card would fall into a lower tier, whereas higher transactions, either something that is entered by someone typing it in like on a website, would fall into a higher cost tier. So the processor is dictating where each transaction is falling into. And again, it gives you very minimal transparency into the actual cost that you're paying. So in this scenario, there's not a true way to offset the cost when you're in a tiered pricing model. You can add credit surcharging, but it's hard to add a 3.5% or a certain surcharge that you're adding on when you don't know which of the buckets your transactions are falling into. And again, you have to go back if you want to be able to reduce cost and negotiate costs down with your credit card processor, whoever got you set up with accepting credit cards in the first place. That in the tiered pricing model is likely the best bet to being able to help reduce costs for accepting credit cards. And then lastly, and I see this often, when businesses are put into a tiered model, they typically are backed with a longer term commitment. So think a 3-year contract or a 3-year agreement. And if business chooses to terminate the 3-year agreement because they are looking for ways to reduce cost and the company's not willing to make isn't willing to be lenient, there's typically an early termination fee. And those early termination fees I've seen range from $195 up to a little bit more exorbitant amounts. So just some information on the tiered pricing, and the best way in this scenario is to likely find someone else or figure out a way to reduce cost by negotiating with your current provider. The last one that we'll cover is flat rate pricing. And this is a single cost assigned to all transactions. It is the easiest to manage because you know what you're paying based on whatever your volume is and the number of transactions that you're on. And you've probably seen some of these numbers through some of the big players out in the market. The flat, it used to be 2.75%, and last year changed to 2.6% and 10 cents a transaction for one of the processing engines. Another one that you'll see for certain online payments are 2.9% and 30 cents a transaction. Or another one you'll see through certain accounting software is 3.3% and a quarter a transaction. So these are flat rate pricing. It doesn't matter what credit card you're using or how it's coming in. This is the cost that you're going to pay. And it's typically a little bit more expensive, but it's easier for the business to manage. So that's the trade-off that they have to see. So in this scenario, again, there's no transparency into what actual cost looks like. And it's simple to understand and predict what the costs are going to be for the business to accept credit cards. In this scenario, you're able to offset fees by utilizing something called cash discounting. I want you guys to consider going to a gas station and you see two sets of costs, a cash price and a credit price, right? You have a cash. If you pay cash, you pay one fee, you pay one cost at a gas station. If you pay credit, you pay another cost at a gas station. This same scenario can be implemented in the business. And this is also a way to have the consumer, if they choose to pay by credit card, because remember, you as the business are paying for the rewards on those credit cards for the consumer. So if the business is looking to accept credit cards and pass the fee on to the consumer, they'll have a cash price and a credit price that allows them to do that. And this, again, will offset any credit card fees that you're essentially going to be paying as the business. So again, I appreciate you guys sticking with me thus far because we just talked about a couple different pricing models, which I know is not the most interesting subject, but it's important to understand so you know what to do next, right? And if you don't know what to do next, just ask. Whether it's me or the person that got you started, ask. So here are some things that you can do to offset credit card processing costs or to reduce or eliminate them. First is credit surcharging. So this is essentially, if someone is paying with a credit card, this does not apply to debit, you can add a fee that is passed on to the consumer to pay for the cost of accepting credit cards at your business. It'll make you whole on your transaction. The second one is going to be adding cash discounting into your business, a cash price and a credit price, like the gas stations, okay? And this, again, is going to enable you to offset the cost of accepting credit cards, meaning your credit card bill is essentially nullified in this scenario. The third one is asking your current provider, hey, do you have a credit surcharge or a cash discount program? You'd be surprised. And, you know, I work for myself now, so I don't have to worry about this. If I was working for someone else, they'd probably be upset that I said, ask your current provider if they can do this. But the best way to do right by businesses is to give them the right information. And if your current provider is someone that you like, know, and trust, and they are offering this program, have a conversation with them about it. It's important. The next thing is if they don't offer these programs and you're looking to continue to stay put, is to negotiate the plus. Have a conversation. Ask them to show you how much you're paying in processing fees, how much their company is taking as a profit with your business. And we're all in business to make money, right? It's just a way to do things fairly. And see if there's a way to negotiate that plus portion of the profit margin down, and see if you can put, inject a little bit of extra cash into your business by doing so. If none of these options are available to you, another one would be to explore other methods to transact and to allow your customers to pay. Oftentimes, you have Venmo, you have ACH, you have wire transactions. There are other ways to accept payments outside of only credit card transactions in certain environments that will do so at a lower cost. And you might have customers that would really appreciate you accepting those. For instance, if you go to a farmer's market, you're going to want to have cash with you. You're also going to want to make sure if you're at a farmer's market, you accept Venmo and PayPal, because that's a way for customers to be able to pay you. So thinking about these other payment methods and ways for customers to pay you is incredibly important to enabling them to buy your products and your services. And then the last one I would say is shop your processing, right? As a business, you're managing additional costs throughout your inventory, your supply, your utilities, et cetera. There's no reason why shouldn't be an area that you should keep an eye on. You don't have to keep an eye on it every month if you're working with someone you know, like, and trust. But it is something that you should do on an annual basis, just to take a look at it, make sure the company you're working with is being honest and continuing to stay honest. And if, again, you can't take advantage of credit surcharge and cash discount or negotiate costs down for any reason, this is the option to figure out how to go and reduce costs, because there will be someone that's going to be able to help your business, likely at a discount to what you are paying today. So lastly, if you have any questions, here's my phone number, my email. I know Stacy had mentioned that you'll be able to access this both on Facebook and through the website. You don't have to feel like you have to do business with me to ask a question. If you have questions, pick up the phone, send an email. I'm happy to help. A rising tide lifts all boats, and that's what we're all here to do is help one another. So Stacy, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because that is the end of this, and I appreciate the opportunity today.
Thank you, Jeff. We appreciate that. That was very interesting to even take it to Venmo and other options, and really opening our businesses' eyes to some other options and all of the different ways in which the credit card processing can be reduced. For me, I know that asking questions is always key in making sure that you know what type of questions to ask. So thank you. I appreciate that and sharing that. So if anyone is on right now that would like to ask a question via the chat, please feel free to do so at this time. Before we end our session today, I'm going to leave it open for a moment. I know the question that I had was you answered, which was, are there other options if you don't have if you don't want to use the credit card processing? And you also answered the question about the surcharge to the customer. I know sometimes customers don't necessarily like that. So offering the business owner other options is very beneficial. So I thank you so much for doing that.
My pleasure. And Stacy, I understand that the customer doesn't always like that, and I understand that. But on the flip side, the business doesn't like paying for that customer's vacations and rewards by taking more money out of their pocket when they're trying to make a living for them and their family. So it's an interesting balance, and some people understand it and some don't. And that's why you have, all these options to be able to do so.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, I don't see anyone else asking any other questions. So I'm just going to share the contact information here for next steps. I know what we are going to do after this webinar is over is we will have the recording of it, as well as this presentation with the contact information on our website. Jeff is also going to provide his presentation as well, so that you'll be able to see and ask some questions to the person that you feel is most appropriate. If you ask anything of me, I'm going to reach out to Jeff. That's why Jeff's name is first. But his phone number, email, website will be up for everyone to view. So at this time, I want to again formally thank you, Jeff, for your time, for putting this together for us and sharing it with our businesses. I know that they will be re-listening to this if they didn't catch it at this time. I already have a couple of people that couldn't make it and told me that they would be doing so. So I'm very appreciative. And we are going to end. I'm going to stop sharing. And we are going to end our webinar. And we are just asking that everyone have a wonderful, wonderful day. Enjoy the summer. And we will catch you on our next webinar, which will be in September. Thank you, everyone. Have a great summer.